Good evening and welcome to the Thursday, November 8th, 2012 Planning and Zoning Committee meeting. The first item on the agenda is a call to order, a Pledge of Allegiance, and Jens is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, as usual.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right.
Thank you very much. And the second item is the approval of minutes from October 25th, 2012.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed?
That was moved by Tripson and
Seconded by Tripson.
Moved by Hamner, seconded by Tripson.
Quick.
All in favor? We said aye. We're done. Item number 3 is a public hearing, the South County Algal Turf Scrubber Stormwater Treatment Facility. It is a public hearing, so I have to swear in anybody who wishes to speak this evening?
Because it's quasi-judicial.
Because it's quasi-judicial. Thank you very much. Is there anybody who wishes to speak this evening? All right.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John McCoy with the planning staff with the presentation. And
Before you get started, I'd like to say that this was an excellent summary in here, and I'm sure we understand this completely, so if you could give us the briefest possible summary of what you're about to do, I would appreciate it.
I will endeavor to do that.
Quit interrupting him.
Yeah.
This is a special exception use application for an algal turf scrub, which is essentially a pollution control mechanism. It's a limited utility use, which is a special exception use in the RS6. From a process standpoint, it means we go through the public hearing process. One point of that is we do send out surrounding property owners notices. We did do that. We did hear from some residents. We did speak with some residents, and they're educating themselves about it, but they weren't able to make it tonight, the ones I spoke with. As far as location of the facility, it's located on the south side of 5th Street Southwest, just east of the water plant. The water plant's outlined in yellow. The subject site's outlined in red. And at the end of the process, those two are going to become one site through the unity of title process. It is zoned RS6 around the subject site. All the properties are zoned RS6, which is residential, single-family, 6-use breaker, and that's why it's a special exception use. This is sort of a big picture of the area. The subject site is where the mouse is right now, an old abandoned grove. To the east and west are some properties, again, RO plant, where the water will come from is over on 27th Avenue, just west of 27th Avenue, at the South Relief Canal. It'll be pumped to the site and then treated once it gets to the site and then discharged. As far as the immediate area, again, the water plant to the immediate north is Lexington Place, which is a residential community which is under development, and also Serenoa, a residential community which is under development. Immediately east of the subject site is a undeveloped portion of property which will be developed residentially someday, water plant to the west, and to the south is a single-family property. We are requesting, since there are scrub jays to be known in the area, that the applicant get a scrub jay clearance letter prior to clearing the site. This is the site plan for the site, and the green area is where the algae will grow. And I'll move on to the next site, which is the access to the site. The site will have a driveway to 5th Street Southwest. This driveway will essentially access what I'll call the tailworks of the project, and this roadway will access the headworks of the project, and then there will also be an interconnection with the RO plant. As far as process, the stormwater and this water that's being pumped to the site will be processed in the same way. Stormwater will be collected on the site, majority of the stormwater, and be routed to the headworks. The canal water will be pumped to the site. Well, there'll be a pipe up the east side of the site, and it'll be piped to the headworks. The brine from the RO plant, which will also be treated at the site, will be piped via this green pipe again to the headworks. They'll all be mixed, and they'll flow over shallow sheet flow to the north end of the site, and over that shallow sheet flow, there'll be an algae that will essentially remove many of the pollutants, the phosphorus, the nitrogen. It'll then collect at this south end. It'll collect in a structure here, be piped into what's called the polishing pond. It will circulate through the polishing pond over a wetland, into a pipe, out into a ditch, and then back to the South Relief Canal at a point much further east. As far as landscaping goes, almost all the landscaping is at the perimeter of the project. To the south, where it's immediately adjacent to the single-family home, there's a type B buffer with a 6-foot opaque feature. Along the east and north, there are intervening right-of-ways. There's a future right-of-way for 12th Avenue, and there's a right-of-way for 5th Street Southwest, and that's why the buffering is reduced to a type C buffer with a 6-foot opaque feature. And then there is some wetland planting within the polishing pond area. As far as related items, the county will need a right-of-way permit to pipe the water to the site. They'll need a unity of title to combine the new site with the RO plant, and they'll need the confirmation from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service about the scrub jays. With that, this is a special exception. It does need to be consistent with the comp plan, which staff has determined that it is. It does need to be found compatible with the surrounding land uses and consistent. And it needs to be determined that there are no adverse impacts on the health, safety, and welfare as a result of this. And the board is authorized to add conditions which would further any of these objectives. With that, I would like to get to the recommendation, and the recommendation is that the staff grant special exception use approval for the algal turf scrubber with the conditions listed in the staff report, and those are the scrub jay clearance, the unity of title, obtaining a permit for the off-site piping, and constructing the buffers, the type B and C buffers. Thank you.
Before I open the public hearing, does anybody have any questions?
Two questions, John. One is in your report, you say that on page 2, you say that the algae are harvested weekly in the summer and less often in cool months. What happens to the algae once it's harvested?
The algae is harvested and dried, and right now it's generally being, at the Egret Marsh site, it's composted and piled.
That's the one off of 8th Street?
That is, I believe, 4th and 74th.
4th, yeah. And the second question is, what is the essence of the scrub jay clearance letter? What does that say?
All it says is, in developing this site, U.S. Fish and Wildlife is about it, and there's no objection and nothing further to do as far as developing this site.
And is that based on multiple visits by U.S. Fish and Wildlife, one visit, their knowledge of the site?
That's going to be handled through our conservation lands manager, and she'll afford them as much access to the site as they deem necessary.
Any other questions?
Yes. As there's going to be pumps involved in this particular project, has there been any noise pollution studies done?
There are pumps, and Keith McCulley's here with Public Works, will probably answer that a little better. I think the majority of the pump work is at the canal site, not at this site. But again, he's here and can answer that in more detail.
Thank you.
Can you give us your name and address, please?
Keith McCulley. I live at 3006 Highway A1A in Vero, and I work with this county stormwater engineer. And you're going to have to repeat the question because
Sure.
I wasn't paying attention.
There's going to be pumps involved in this project, and I just want to know if there was any kind of noise pollution study done to make sure it's not going to adversely affect existing residents or the possibility of new residents coming into the area.
Yeah. There will be no noise. The main pump is a 10 million gallon per day pump that'll be at the corner of 27th Street in the South Relief Canal on the north side of the right-of-way, a little bit west of the bridge. But it's a submersible wastewater type pump, so there should be no noise from that. And then the pump that's on site is going to be a combination recycle water pump for when the South Canal pump isn't functioning due to the water level in the canal. And it'll also be the stormwater pump that pumps the stormwater back up to the ATS, but it'll also be a submersible wastewater type pump.
Okay.
So we don't anticipate. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
No buffering of pumps, Todd.
That's good.
Okay, so this is a public hearing. Is there anyone else from the public that would like to come up and speak on this matter? Seeing that there's no one else from the public who would like to speak, and
Move approval as presented.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. The next item is Commissioners' Matters. Are there any? Anyone have any Commissioners' Matters? No. Item number 5, Planning Matters. Any planning matters?
Just a few things, Mr. Chairman. This last Tuesday, the board approved a floodplain ordinance that you all had reviewed and recommended. The staff incorporated the changes that you requested, and that's what got approved. You all got an email of that last week. On November 13th, the next Tuesday, the board will consider the capital improvement element update. We'd mentioned that during our discussion of the Vero Estates item at a previous meeting. And tomorrow I'll be emailing you that staff report item. And then, as mentioned before, there will be a meeting for the P&Z on December 13th. We have at least one item. We may have 2 items for that. And that's all that I have, Mr. Chairman.
Any attorneys' matters?
No, sir.
We are adjourned.